Hello and welcome to Sleepy Science Story. This is your time to slow down, to let the noise of the day soften into silence, and to drift gently into a world of quiet curiosity. Tonight, we're going to journey far from home to a place where the air is thin, the sky is dusty, and the sunsets bloom blue. Tonight's story is all about what might happen if we lived on Mars. So nestle in, take a deep breath, and let your mind wander a little farther than usual. I hope it's not too interesting to keep you awake, but if it is, at least your dreams will be full of stars and red dust. Somewhere in the night sky, beyond the calm glow of the moon, there is a small flicker of rust-colored light. It doesn't twinkle like the stars. It shines steadily, almost stubbornly, like it knows we've been watching. For as long as we've looked up, Mars has been watching back. It has wandered across the sky in loops and backtracks, confusing early astronomers and fascinating storytellers. Some called it a god of war. Others imagined canals and cities and the quiet hum of alien minds. But always, through all the centuries of wandering, Mars has lived inside our dreams. There's something about its color that draws us in. Not quite red like a fire truck, not quite orange like a sunset. Mars is the color of old clay pots or dried riverbeds, the kind of red that feels ancient and thoughtful. It's easy to picture someone long ago sitting by a fire, pointing to that soft ember in the sky and asking the very same questions we still ask today. What is it like up there? Could we ever touch it? Could we ever live there? Even though it's our planetary neighbor, Mars still feels like a distant cousin. It's close, but just far enough to remain mysterious. It's the kind of place you think you could visit in a dream, walk across in soft silence, and wake up before anything dangerous happens. And maybe that's part of the appeal. Mars is a world that feels lonely, but not unwelcoming, cold, but not cruel. It is silent, but not empty. The more we learn about it, the more it seems to hold space for us. Scientists send their little robot scouts to roll across its dusty plains and whisper back secrets. Orbiters drift slowly overhead, like sleepy sentinels tracing the sky. Every photo that returns is like a postcard from another life, stamped in rust and time. And though no human foot has yet touched the Martian soil, we can almost hear the crunch of boots on dust in our minds. We can almost feel the dry breeze tugging at a helmet, the strange weight of walking in a place where everything pulls just a little more gently. To imagine living on Mars is not only to imagine spaceships and domes and high-tech suits. It is to imagine a new kind of quiet, a quieter kind of life. One where the sky is butterscotch by day and sapphire by night. One where every sound is a soft echo against the silence of a sleeping world. There's a tenderness to that thought, like pressing your hand against frosted glass. You can't go through yet, but you can feel something waiting. And maybe that's the real beginning of living on Mars. Not a rocket launch or a first step, but a shared pause, where our thoughts gently tiptoe across the space between planets and land in the soft dust of a world we've always known from afar. Mars wasn't always the quiet, frozen desert we know today. There are clues scattered across its surface, carved into valleys, etched into old riverbeds, whispering stories of a time when it may have been warmer, wetter, and maybe just a little more alive. If you look closely at satellite images, you'll see winding channels that seem to have been carved by flowing water, deltas that look like ancient river mouths, and minerals that only form when water lingers long enough to seep into stone. Mars remembers. It carries the shape of its past the way driftwood carries the shape of waves. Long ago, billions of years back, Mars had something that looked very much like an atmosphere, not as thick as Earth's, but enough to hold warmth and maybe even clouds that wept slow rains across red soil. The The sun was dimmer back then, but the planet may have wrapped itself in a soft blanket of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, trapping just enough heat to keep the chill at bay. For a while, it worked. There may have been lakes that rippled under a salmon sky, maybe even shallow oceans that sloshed against rocky shores. We don't know if anything lived in those waters, but the idea lingers like a scent in an old room. And then, something changed. Slowly, and almost invisibly, the atmosphere began to vanish. Mars doesn't have a global magnetic field like Earth does, that invisible armor that shields our air from the sun's hungry winds. Without it, Mars was left exposed. Over time, solar particles peeled the atmosphere away like the pages of a delicate book. Bit by bit, the gases drifted off into space. The warmth followed. The water fled or froze. The clouds disappeared, and Mars became what we see now, cold, dry, and startlingly quiet. This unraveling didn't happen in an afternoon. It unfolded over millions of years, too slow for even the most patient observer to notice. But the result is a world that feels abandoned, though it was never truly ours to begin with. There's a certain gentleness in that sadness, like an old house with empty rooms, where the wind still remembers the voices of those who once stayed there, even if only for a while. To live on Mars, we would be stepping into that silence, not to disturb it, but perhaps to keep it company. We would bring our own warmth, our own air, our own memories of oceans and windstorms and rainy days. In a way, we would be returning something Mars once had. Not by restoring what was lost, but by offering something new, a kind of companionship, a way of saying, quietly and gently, you are not forgotten. And as we tuck ourselves into this red, sleeping world, perhaps we can begin to understand that even the coldest planets still carry stories of warmth. Imagine the moment just before the hatch opens. You are standing inside a quiet vessel, sealed off from a world that is nothing like the one you left behind. Outside the window, the horizon glows in a sleepy shade of butterscotch, stretching out across endless plains of soft dust and scattered rock. You are suited up, wrapped in a second skin, and everything you hear is muffled by layers of fabric and breath. Then the hatch opens with a slow sigh, and you step forward. Your boots touch the surface with a gentle crunch, pressing into a layer of fine powder that looks like cocoa sifted from a giant spoon. The dust is ancient, ground down over billions of years by meteorites and frozen winds. It clings to everything, floats in soft clouds when disturbed, and settles again as if it never moved. The ground beneath your feet is firm but strange, a kind of alien firmness that doesn't quite respond the way Earth would. It feels like walking through memory foam, except the memories belong to a planet that has always been asleep. The sky is dim but wide, stretching far beyond anything you've ever known. There are no trees, no birds, no sounds of rustling leaves or insects, only silence. And that silence is thick, not empty. It hums with presence like a held breath. You take a few more steps, slowly, feeling the unfamiliar bounce of lower gravity. Each footfall lifts more easily than it should, and even though you carry equipment and layers of protective gear, you feel light, not just in body, but in spirit. Around you, the land is painted in quiet tones, muted reds, soft ochres, pale browns. You see the rim of an ancient crater in the distance, its edges worn like an old seashell. Nearby, a lonely rock stands tilted, casting a long, still shadow. Nothing moves, and yet it does not feel lifeless. It feels like a place that has simply chosen stillness over noise. You plant a small marker in the ground, not for anyone else, but for yourself, a way of saying, I was here, a gentle moment of presence. It is not triumph that fills you, but wonder, a quiet recognition that you are standing on the surface of another planet, not in a dream but in waking reality. And yet, it still feels like a dream. The dust around your boots will hold your footprints longer than any beach on Earth. There is no wind strong enough to erase them quickly, no rain to wash them away. What you leave behind will stay for years, perhaps centuries, and maybe someday someone else will come along, find them, and imagine the feeling of that first step all over again. Even now, with the stars far above and Earth just a distant sparkle in the sky, you realize something softly beautiful. You are no longer just visiting Mars. You have arrived. You step outside, and the world holds its breath. The sky stretches out like a painting done in faded pastels, a blend of dusty orange and soft grey, with no birdsong to interrupt the hush. You move slowly, feeling the weight of your suit, listening to the steady rhythm of your own breath. But if you were to lift your helmet, even for a moment, that breath would vanish. Because on Mars the air is not yours. There is an atmosphere here, but it is not the kind that wraps around you with comfort. It is thin, fragile, almost ghost-like. It presses gently compared to Earth's thick embrace. It cannot warm you. It cannot fill your lungs. The air here is mostly carbon dioxide, with barely a whisper of oxygen. If you tried to breathe it, your body would forget what to do. The oxygen that keeps your heart beating, that fuels your cells and feeds your dreams, simply isn't there. Imagine trying to breathe underwater, but without the water. The result is the same. The air on Mars is so insubstantial, it's like trying to breathe through a closed window. It exists, but it does not serve you. And so, to live here, we must bring our own breath with us, bottled and sealed and carefully measured. Every inhalation inside your helmet is a quiet gift from Earth, a reminder of what it means to be alive in a place that never asked for you. This delicate atmosphere also offers little protection. On Earth, our sky acts like a great shield, guarding us from cosmic rays, filtering sunlight, and keeping our temperatures in check. Mars does not have that luxury. Its skies let in too much radiation, and its air cannot hold heat the way Earth's can. The warmth of day vanishes quickly once the sun dips below the horizon. Nights come with a deep cold that creeps into every crack and corner. It is not a cruel cold, just a lonely one. Still, there is beauty in this inhospitable air. On Earth, we often take breath for granted. We inhale without thinking, sigh without consequence. But on Mars, breath becomes precious. It must be earned, protected, respected. The hiss of oxygen flowing through your suit becomes your lullaby. The fog of your breath against the inside of your helmet is your constant companion. You feel every breath. You know it. You treasure it. And perhaps, over time, we will learn to shape this Martian air into something more hospitable. We will build machines that pull oxygen from carbon dioxide. We will learn to fill our domes and greenhouses with fresh, breathable air, just as fish live in water crafted from filters and careful balance. And maybe, just maybe, the air here will start to change, very slowly because of us. But for now, it remains something we cannot touch without care. The air you cannot breathe becomes a reminder that even in the silence, life finds a way to whisper. There are no welcome mats on Mars, no picket fences, no porches where you can sip coffee and wave at neighbors. Home here is not something you decorate. It is something you build for survival. And yet, even in that necessity, there is something quietly comforting, something that feels almost like belonging. The first homes on Mars will not rise like skyscrapers. They will be tucked into the soil, nestled beneath layers of thick regolith. Not because we want to hide, but because we must. The dust outside carries radiation, the sky offers no shield, and the nights grow far too cold far too quickly. So we dig. Or we build with the dust itself. We take the red earth and press it into blocks, or melt it into shapes that can hold our warmth and protect our breath. The planet becomes both the threat and the shelter. Inside these homes, the air is filtered, the temperature steady, the pressure just right. The walls hum faintly with the sound of machines at work, endlessly keeping everything in balance. Oxygen flows like water from hidden tanks. Lights glow in soft tones, mimicking a sun that lives millions of miles away. Everything is carefully arranged, every piece of furniture selected, not for style, but for efficiency. And yet, somehow, the space begins to feel human. A window, perhaps, not large. Just enough to see the muted landscape outside, enough to watch the horizon blush with a Martian sunrise, or to catch the slow drifting of dust storms in the distance. A photograph taped beside the bed. A book resting weightless on a shelf. Small things that speak of Earth, even when Earth is only a distant star in the sky. Living here means learning to listen, to the whisper of the air pumps, to the creak of the habitat as it adjusts to temperature shifts, to the soft footsteps of another person on metal flooring. In this new world, you do not shout to be heard. You speak gently. You move with care. Home becomes a quiet rhythm, a place where life is sustained moment by moment with intention. And even though the architecture may look strange, and the walls may be made of dust and polymer, the feeling inside is something very old. It is the same feeling you get when you close the door behind you after a long day, when the outside world falls away and only warmth remains. The walls may be thinner than Earth's, the stars much closer, but the heart of the home stays the same. Mars does not offer comfort freely. You must build it yourself. But once you do, once you take your first breath of filtered air inside your little shelter, something unexpected happens. You feel safe. And in a world that was never meant for humans, that safety becomes something sacred. Water is one of those things we rarely notice until it is gone. On Earth, we turn a tap, and there it is, cold or warm, sparkling or still, pouring freely into a glass. It is in the air we breathe, the food we eat, the tears we shed. On Mars, it is different. Water is not something that flows. It is something you must find, coax, and guard like a secret. The planet wears its dryness like a second skin. Dust coats the surface in endless dunes and craters. Rivers once carved paths through this land, but now they are only ghostly channels, long, dry and silent. And yet, Mars still hides its water. It just does so very carefully. Some of it is frozen into the soil, locked in crystals beneath the surface. Some rests in icy caps at the poles, untouched and ancient. A little even drifts through the thin air, waiting to be caught in clever filters. To live on Mars, we must become water detectives. We search for signs in the soil. We look for frost clinging to shadowed rocks at dawn. We melt what we can, using power harvested from the gentle sun or from machines that hum quietly in the background. Sometimes we even breathe water into existence, collecting it from the moisture in the air we exhale. Nothing is wasted, not a drop. You might imagine filling a cup here would feel triumphant, but it does not. It feels careful. The cup is sealed. The water is measured. It is cool and clean, but also strange, knowing how far it has come. You sip slowly, not just to conserve it, but to appreciate it. Each swallow is a quiet ritual, a reminder that life persists even in the driest of places. In time, we will build better systems, We will recycle and reclaim, drawing moisture from the very walls of our habitats. We will grow plants that give some back, misting tiny droplets into the air. And maybe, one day, we will even find aquifers deep below the surface, waiting patiently like buried treasure. But until then, we learn to live with less. We adapt to the silence where water used to sing. There is a certain peace in this practice, a stillness that comes from living in rhythm with your needs. You do not take more than you require. You do not let the faucet run. You treat water as the gift it truly is. In doing so, something gentle begins to grow. Gratitude. Not loud or flashy, but soft and steady, like condensation gathering on the inside of a glass. And in this new world, where deserts stretch as far as the eye can see and clouds are a rare delight, every drop becomes a story of resilience, of care, of finding life in places where life forgot to look. On Mars, even water feels like a miracle. On Earth, the sky begins and ends the day with a warm hush. Sunrises bloom in golden threads, and sunsets settle into deep amber and violet tones, wrapping the day in color before night takes hold. But on Mars, the sky plays a different song. Here, the colors are reversed, and what you thought you knew about the sun's farewell is turned gently upside down. Imagine waking up in a small habitat, the air inside humming faintly, everything quiet except for the slow rhythm of your breath. You make your way to a little window, or maybe a dome that opens to the sky. Outside, the land is wrapped in a soft, rosy light. The sun is rising low on the horizon, casting its first light across plains of dust and stone. But the light does not shine golden. Instead, it washes the sky in pale oranges and muted reds, coloring everything with the same shades found in the soil. A Martian sunrise looks almost like the planet itself, glowing from within. It is beautiful, but soft, gentle, as if the light does not want to wake the world too suddenly. The sun looks smaller from here, more distant, as though it is trying its best to reach across the space and touch you with warmth. It rises slowly, and the sky never truly turns blue. The atmosphere is too thin to scatter the light the way Earth's does, so instead, it lets the reddish dust fill the sky with its own quiet song. But the real surprise comes at the end of the day. As the sun begins to set, something strange and beautiful happens. The reds and oranges begin to fade, and in their place comes a glow of pale, dusty blue. It starts at the center of the sun and spreads gently outward, a soft swirl of color that looks like breath on glass. This is the opposite of Earth's sunset. On Mars, the blue arrives when the light is leaving. The science behind it is simple. Dust in the Martian sky scatters the light differently. On Earth, blue light is scattered during the day, which is why our skies are blue. On Mars, that same dust lets the red light spread out during the day, while blue light clusters near the sunday. So when the sun is low, the blue has nowhere left to go but directly into your eyes. But you do not need to know the science to feel the wonder. You can just sit by the window and watch the sky change, slowly, almost shyly, as if it is not quite sure you are watching. The silence outside deepens, the stars begin to wake, and the land cools under the fading light. You take one last look at the horizon and let the blue settle into your thoughts. Even in the most unfamiliar places, the sky still finds a way to surprise us. And on Mars, it does so with a sunset that whispers in a color you never expected to see. The first thing you notice is how easy it feels to move. You take a step, and instead of falling forward as you would on Earth, your foot hovers just a moment longer. There is a bounce to your stride, a softness in your motion, as if the planet is holding you more loosely. Mars does not pull you down with the same strength. Its gravity is about 1/3 of what you are used to, and that difference touches everything. Your body, which on Earth carries itself with effort, suddenly feels like it belongs to someone else. You are not weightless, not floating, but lighter in a way that feels playful. Your limbs swing a little wider. Jumps lift you higher than expected, and landings are slower, almost thoughtful. Objects that once required strength to lift now yield more easily. A container of tools becomes a feathered suitcase. A bag of food drifts in your grip like a balloon without a string. But this lightness, while delightful, carries its own quiet challenges. Muscles that once strained to support your every move now have less to do. Bones that thrived under the pressure of Earth's pull begin to rest too much. Your body, always adapting, starts to change in response. Over time, muscles may soften, bones may thin, hearts may beat differently, adjusting to a slower rhythm. What feels like freedom at first is actually a lesson in balance. To live here, we must learn new ways of staying strong. Movement must be chosen. Exercise becomes more than a habit. It becomes a necessity. But even then, it can be done gently. Treadmills with soft harnesses, resistance bands stretching like long sighs, carefully planned routines that keep the body grounded, even when the ground does not insist on it. And yet, there is something peaceful in this lightness. Imagine walking across a Martian plain, your boots pressing softly into the dust, your steps floating just a little longer than expected. You stop and stretch your arms wide, feeling the air press lightly against your suit. You crouch, and the motion feels effortless. You rise, and your center of gravity feels new and curious. The whole world feels like a place that gives you a little more time, not rushing you forward, not pulling you back, just letting you linger. Children, if they ever live here, may laugh more easily in this gravity. They might leap higher, tumble farther, dance in longer arcs. They might grow up thinking this is how life has always felt, and Earth's gravity would feel like an unexpected hug, heavy, familiar, strange. Here, on Mars, you move differently, but you also think differently. Lighter gravity means lighter burdens. It offers a new relationship with space and movement. And as your feet rise and fall in gentle rhythm, you begin to realize that even gravity can be softened by distance. Even weight can become wonder. In the quiet corners of a Martian habitat, under the gentle hum of artificial lights, something green begins to grow. It is not much at first. Just a sprout, curled like a sleeping comma in a tray of soil that came from Earth or was carefully prepared from Martian dust. But even this tiny shoot feels like a miracle. In a world without rain, without buzzing bees or drifting pollen, to see life pushing its way toward the light is a kind of magic. Farming on Mars is not like gardening back home. There is no weather to guide your seasons, no clouds to bring surprise showers. Every drop of water, every beam of light, every grain of nutrient is planned with care. Seeds are placed not just where they will grow best, but where they will use the least. The greenhouse is a sealed room, kept at just the right pressure and temperature, with soft fans circulating air like a steady breath. Outside, the landscape remains silent and still, but in here the air smells faintly of damp soil and leaves. The lettuce stretches slowly under pink and white lights that mimic sunlight. Each leaf unfurls like a page in a patient book. The plants do not know they are on another planet. They only know warmth, moisture, the pull of gravity that is light but enough. They grow because that is what they are meant to do. The first harvest is small, a few tender leaves, a cluster of roots like threads, but the taste is unforgettable. crisp, cool, with a hint of earth still clinging to it. You chew slowly, letting the flavor sit on your tongue longer than it needs to. Because this lettuce was not shipped or stored or preserved. It was grown, here, by hand, by light, by hope. You begin to imagine what else might grow. Tiny tomatoes like drops of fire, potatoes nestled in trays of dust, herbs that release their scent when touched. Each one a step closer to living well, not just surviving. Each one a way of bringing color and texture and life into a place that never had its own. The plants give more than food. They give oxygen, exhaling what we inhale, creating a loop of quiet partnership. They give routine, something to care for each day. They give beauty, little splashes of green against the soft grey walls. And they give peace, the kind that comes from watching something grow slowly, silently, without asking for anything except time and attention. As more crops grow and the shelves fill with edible life, the habitat begins to feel more like home. The garden becomes a soft center, a place of warmth in a land of cold. And though the stars still shine sharp outside, inside this small greenhouse, there is a different kind of starlight, the kind that grows leaves, the kind that grows comfort. Before stepping outside on Mars, you do something that becomes as natural as brushing your teeth or tying your shoes. You suit up. The Mars suit waits for you in the airlock, standing upright like a quiet guardian. It is not flashy. It does not shimmer or shine. It is practical, padded, and sturdy, designed to protect you from everything the planet offers without invitation. Slipping into the suit is not fast. It is a ritual. You step in slowly, guiding your arms and legs through the layers of fabric and structure. You check seals, secure clasps, and listen for the soft clicks that say everything is in place. Then comes the helmet, lowering gently over your head, turning your vision into a quiet frame of glass. Once inside, the world shifts. You hear your breath, steady and close. You hear the faint hum of systems beginning to wake, and you feel the presence of the suit settle around you like a second body. This suit is not just clothing, it is your companion. It keeps you warm in the coldest winds. It brings you air to breathe when the world outside cannot. It shields you from the invisible rays of the sun, and it keeps the pressure of life steady against the thinness of Martian air. Every part of it is working, constantly and quietly, without needing to be asked. It is not a machine that carries you, it is something more intimate, a soft shield, a trusted partner. Walking in the suit takes practice. Movements are slower, heavier, and deliberate. Your arms push against gentle resistance, your legs lift with care. Turning your head becomes an act of patience. But over time, you stop noticing. It becomes normal. It becomes you. You forget what it is like to feel wind on your face. You forget the weight of Earth's gravity pressing into your spine. The suit becomes your world, and strangely, it begins to feel familiar. Inside, you have everything you need. Oxygen tanks cradle your back. Temperature control wraps around your skin. Even the visor adjusts to light, darkening against the sun and softening in the shade. Some suits are fitted with radios, allowing soft voices to travel between domes and vehicles. Others hum quietly, filling the silence with subtle white noise. You may even tape a small photo inside the helmet or scratch a name on the sleeve. It is still equipment, but it is also a little piece of home. The outside world may never change to meet your needs, but the suit does. It carries you gently across red plains. It crouches with you beside rocks shaped by ancient winds. It lets you kneel in the dust and press your gloved hand into the soil without fear. It gives you the courage to wander, and when the mission is over, and you. Step back inside the habitat, peeling it off one layer at a time. You feel both relief and absence. For a moment, you're soft again, vulnerable, but also deeply grateful. Because for a little while, you wore a shell that made the impossible feel natural. There is a kind of silence on Mars that you do not find on Earth. It is not just the absence of noise, it is deeper than that. It is the absence of presence. No insects buzz in the distance. No wind rustles through trees. No birds announce the morning or chatter through the day. The silence on Mars does not come and go. It waits. Always. When you first step outside, it is the quiet that greets you before anything else. Even through the suit, even with the soft hum of your oxygen system and the occasional creak of your movements, you feel it. The world around you is still, not empty, but listening. Every sound you make feels louder than it should. The crunch of your boots on the dust, the tap of a tool against rock, the steady rhythm of your breath. It is as if the planet is holding its breath, waiting for you to speak, but it never speaks first. On Earth, silence is a pause between things. Here, it is the background of everything. You begin to notice small sounds you once ignored, the way your heartbeat echoes in your ears, the slight crackle of the radio, the flutter of static when someone else speaks, miles away, but still close through the wire. You become aware of your own voice in a new way, measured, soft, as though raising it too high might wake something that prefers to sleep. Some days, when the wind picks up, the silence breaks a little. Not with sound you can hear clearly, but with motion. Dust dances across the surface, swirling and lifting in slow spirals, but even then it is quiet. You do not hear the wind, you see it. You feel the pressure change around you, the way a window feels just before a storm, but it never howls, it never sings. It only moves, then fades. Listening to Mars becomes an act of presence. You listen not for what is there, but for what is not. The absence becomes its own kind of music, a soft hum that wraps around you like a blanket. And slowly, you begin to find comfort in it. Not loneliness, not fear, just space, just time. Inside the habitat, sounds return. Machinery, water, flowing through pipes. The shuffle of footsteps, but even those sounds feel softer now, as though Mars has taught them to be quiet too. You find yourself whispering, even when there is no reason. You tread more gently. You think more slowly. Silence on Mars does not demand anything from you. It does not rush you or fill your ears with chatter. It offers you a moment, a wide open moment, stretched out across a planet where no one has ever shouted, where even time moves softly. And perhaps, in that silence, you begin to hear something new. The sound of your own thoughts, unhurried. The rhythm of your own breath, steady and alive. And maybe that is enough. There comes a time, sometimes with warning and sometimes without, when the world outside begins to disappear. It starts with a soft dimming. The sky, already pale and quiet, begins to turn the colour of tea stirred with too much milk. The shadows fade, the light loses its edge, and everything takes on the tone of rust and whisper. You look out the window, and what was once a clear horizon becomes blurred, then blank, then gone. A dust storm has arrived. On Earth, storms come with sound. Thunder rumbles, wind howls, and rain taps its soft fingers across rooftops and leaves. On Mars, the storms arrive more quietly. They do not crash or roar, they glide. At first, you may not hear anything at all. Inside the habitat, the air remains still. But outside, particles are lifting, swirling, rising into the thin air like dry fog. Martian dust is finer than flour, as soft and clingy as talcum powder. Once stirred, it does not settle quickly. A storm can begin in one small valley, a little puff of motion, and then grow. Winds sweep it up, not with violence but with persistence. It spreads like a thought across the landscape. Soon, it reaches everything. The sky turns darker, not with clouds but with dust so high and widespread that it can dim the sunlight itself. On the worst days, the storm can wrap the entire planet. There is no lightning, no rain. Just the soft hiss of dust moving where it pleases, painting everything with the same muted red. Inside, lights flicker on earlier. Solar panels lose their strength as the sun disappears behind layers of powder. You learn to prepare, to store energy, to clean filters, to seal small cracks where dust might try to sneak through. And still, no matter how careful you are, it finds a way. A fine red film on your gloves, a faint smell like dry clay in the corners of the airlock. It becomes part of the day. But storms do not last forever. Slowly the dust begins to settle. Sometimes it takes hours, sometimes it takes weeks, and when it does, you begin to see again. The horizon returns, first in shadow, then in detail. The sun reappears, a little pale at first, then warmer. Light filters back through the windows, and the inside of the habitat brightens as if exhaling. After a long storm, you step outside with caution. The world is coated in a fresh layer of red. Your footprints vanish more quickly now. Surfaces must be brushed, checked, cleaned. But there is also a strange beauty. Everything looks softened, blurred, as if the planet has been gently powdered, made new again in silence. There is no fear in these storms, only respect. They are part of the rhythm of this place. Slow, vast, patient. And as you stand there brushing dust from your visor, you realize that even here the weather has its own kind of poetry. Sometimes, when the sky is clear and the dust has settled and the lights inside the habitat are low, you walk outside and look up. The stars on Mars are not so different from those on Earth. They shimmer in the same places. They draw the same constellations. But there is one small dot that stands out. It does not blink. It does not move, and yet it holds your gaze longer than the rest. That tiny pale star is Earth. It is hard to believe at first that everything you have ever known could be contained in something so faint. That all the oceans and forests and cities and laughter could be wrapped into a speck no larger than a pinprick. You stare at it and try to remember the way the wind felt on your face, the sound of leaves, the smell of rain on warm pavement, and though you are wrapped in layers of insulation and silence, something in your chest feels warm. Earth is far away, but not forgotten. Messages still travel back and forth, drifting through the quiet space between planets, like bottled thoughts tossed into a gentle sea. They take minutes to arrive, sometimes more, but they arrive. Voices from home, pictures, jokes, questions, reminders. The connection is not fast, but it is steady, and in that steadiness there is comfort. There are days when you do not think of Earth at all, when you are busy tending to plants or checking readings or watching the sky change color. Mars demands your attention in slow, deliberate ways. It teaches you to live with less and notice more, but then, just as softly as a memory, Earth appears again in your thoughts, a flicker in the sky and in the mind. The longer you live away from it, the more Earth becomes a feeling rather than a place. It is the sensation of gravity pulling a little more firmly. It is the taste of fruit grown in soil rich with history. It is the sound of a breeze through trees, the layered songs of life overlapping without end. On Mars, where the air is thin and the silence wide, those things become gentle ghosts, not painful, just distant. Looking up at Earth does not make you homesick. Not exactly. It makes you grateful. You carry it with you in the way you speak, in the food you grow, in the warmth of a shared look. With someone who remembers the same sky, you carry it in stories, in dreams, in the careful way you move through a world that is not your own, but which allows you to stay. That pale star, so far away, reminds you not of what you've left, but of what you still belong to. It is a dot of light, but it holds every color, a whisper in the night that says, I am still here. On Earth, the day clicks forward like a metronome, 24 hours, familiar and unchanging. The sun rises, passes overhead, and sinks again into dusk. But on Mars, time stretches just a little. A Martian day is longer, by only 39 minutes, not enough to notice at first, but enough to feel once it settles into your rhythm. At first, you try to live by Earth's clock. You follow the same schedules, you set the same alarms, but the body has its own way of knowing. Over time, you begin to feel that something is not quite aligned. Your sleep stretches a little longer, your meals shift slightly later. Light outside lingers while your watch insists that evening has come. Eventually, you stop resisting. You let Mars guide you. That extra sliver of time becomes a quiet gift. 39 minutes may not seem like much, but in a place where every resource is measured and every task is timed, it begins to feel like something precious. A pocket of stillness, a space to breathe, a moment to slow your thoughts before the day rolls on again. Sunrise arrives with familiar softness. The sky warms to dusty peach as the sun peeks over the edge of a distant crater. The day moves gently, with shadows stretching long across the ground, and as the extra time unfolds, you find yourself noticing more: the way the dust shifts in changing light, the pace of your own footsteps, the soft pull of sleep arriving just a little later than usual. Inside the habitat, the clocks have been adjusted. They tick in Martian rhythm now, matching the slow spin of the planet beneath your feet. Lights are programmed to mimic natural daylight cycles, syncing your inner clock to this new pace. The result is not disorientation, but a kind of quiet relief. You are not racing the day anymore, you are walking alongside it. Even your thoughts seem to slow, conversations stretch, work takes on a different rhythm, and when night comes, it does so with patience. Stars appear like shy guests at the edge of a gathering. The darkness outside wraps around the habitat like a soft blanket, and the extra minutes at the end of the day feel like a lullaby you didn't know you needed. Some say this slower clock could be good for the body, that the heart welcomes the change, and the mind finds space to rest in ways it cannot on Earth. Whether true or not, you feel it. The difference, the ease, like time itself has exhaled. A Martian day is still called a sol. It begins and ends like any other, but holds just a little more space inside it. And perhaps that is all we need sometimes. A little more room to think. A little more time to feel the sun on our face. A little more chance to pause before the day slips away. The human body is a quiet creature of habit. It learns rhythms without being told. It remembers the weight of gravity. It follows the soft pulse of night and day. And when it finds itself far from home, on a world with different rules, it begins the slow work of adapting, not with alarm, not with complaint, but with small, curious changes. On Mars, the body notices the difference almost immediately. Muscles do not carry the same load. Joints move more freely. Bones begin to let go of some of their strength. Not because they want to, but because they no longer need to work so hard. In lower gravity, the body lightens itself, and over time, it forgets how to be heavy. The heart, too, finds a new rhythm. It pumps more gently, blood redistributes, fluids shift upward, giving the face a puffier look. Sometimes the head feels just a little more full, as if the body is learning to balance all, over again. None of it is dangerous right away. It is simply different. The body is listening, adjusting, reshaping itself to meet the quiet pull of Mars. Bones, however, are stubborn. They grow strong when they are pushed against. Without the weight they once carried, they begin to thin. Calcium leaks slowly into the bloodstream. If nothing is done, they soften like forgotten chalk. But astronauts know this. They prepare, they move, they lift, they stretch and press and resist. Exercise becomes more than health. It becomes memory. A way of telling the bones to remember how to hold you. Eyes, too, may shift. The shape of the eyeball can change ever so slightly, pushed by fluids and pressure in unfamiliar directions. Vision might blur, then clear, then blur again. The body does not complain, it only adjusts. And researchers back on Earth watch closely, learning how to help. The immune system listens quietly. On Earth, it is constantly alert, patrolling against 1,000 small threats. But on Mars, in the sealed safety of a habitat, it begins to relax. Sometimes too much. Sometimes just enough. It is not weak, but it changes, just like everything else. Even sleep finds new patterns. With a longer day and a different gravity, dreams may stretch differently. Sleep may come sooner or later than expected, but it comes. Wrapped in filtered air and soft lights, the body rests, and in that rest it continues to learn. The truth is that the human body is not made for Mars, not yet, but it is clever, it is kind, it pays attention, and given time, it begins to make sense of its new home. With help, with care, and with curiosity, the body learns how to stand a little taller under lighter skies. And perhaps, by the time Earth is just a distant glimmer in the sky, the body will no longer feel like a visitor here. It will feel, quietly and completely, like it belongs. You sit at a small table, the kind that folds neatly against the wall when not in use. A cup of recycled tea steams beside your elbow, and the low hum of the habitat surrounds you like a soft blanket. Outside, Mars is quiet. Inside, you open a tablet and begin to write. The message is short. A hello. A few thoughts about the day, a note about the lettuce crop, maybe a line or two about the wind rattling faintly against the outer wall. You write slowly, not because it is difficult, but because distance changes how you speak. On Earth, messages fly in an instant. Here, they drift. When you tap send, the words leave you and begin their journey. There is no magical beam, no spark of light across the sky. Only a calm signal, carried through networks and relays, passed gently between machines that do not rush. Depending on where the planets are in their slow orbits, the message might take 5 minutes to arrive. Or 10, or 20, sometimes even longer. You do not wait for an answer. You cannot. The conversation is not a back and forth. It is more like a message in a bottle, set gently into a sea of space. And yet, when a reply comes, it carries weight. Every word feels like a thread connecting you back to where you came from. The delay is not a burden, it is a rhythm. You write, and then you pause. You read, and then you reflect. There is no rush to respond, no pressure to be instant. It is communication softened by distance, shaped by patience. You begin to look forward to messages, not because they are frequent, but because they are rare. A birthday wish, a shared memory, a photo of a dog lying in a sunbeam. These small moments cross millions of kilometers just to reach you. They arrive like postcards from another life. Sometimes they bring laughter, sometimes they bring tears. Always, they bring presence. Mail on Mars is not always digital. Sometimes it is physical. A cargo ship might carry handwritten letters or small gifts sealed in tight containers. A book with corners softened by human touch. A scarf that smells faintly of lavender. A drawing folded neatly into a corner of a supply box. These arrive months later, but they feel fresh, as if time paused just to deliver them. Even sending something back becomes an act of thoughtfulness. You craft your messages carefully. You consider your words. You tuck little jokes between lines. You add photos of sunrises over red hills. And when you send them, you know they will travel through silence to find their place in someone's hands. It may take days, it may take weeks, but when the message lands, it says more than hello. It says, I am still here. And for just a moment, space feels smaller, just a little. In the quiet kitchen of a Martian habitat, cooking becomes something like meditation. There are no sizzling pans or open flames. There is no steam rising from a pot of boiling water. Instead, everything is slower, quieter, more careful. You do not throw ingredients into a pan. You place them gently. You do not stir. You fold. You do not wait for water to bubble. You warm it with steady patience, knowing that here, heat behaves differently. The lower gravity on Mars does more than make you feel light. It changes how food cooks. Flames, if used at all, do not dance the way they do on Earth. They cling to their source like little petals and must be watched with precision. Most of the time, you do not use fire at all. You rely on induction plates, heat pads, pressurized ovens. You rehydrate dried meals with measured drops of water, watching the shapes unfold like tiny blossoms waking up from sleep. There is joy in the simplicity. A pouch of dried stew, once warmed, smells just as familiar as the one from home. A spoonful of powdered soup, when mixed with care, becomes comfort in a bowl. Even a square of freeze-dried fruit carries flavor that surprises you. On Mars, taste becomes memory. The food may be simple, but the feelings it brings are rich. You grow some things too. Lettuce, of course. Herbs, maybe even small tomatoes if the systems are generous. You crush a basil leaf between your fingers, and the scent brings you somewhere else. A summer, a kitchen, a window open to bird song. That memory lives here now, tucked into the soft hum of the greenhouse. You experiment when you can, not with flair or speed, but with curiosity. A pancake shaped in low gravity looks different. It cooks unevenly, puffing at odd angles. A bread roll rises slowly, shyly, until it finds its shape. Nothing is wasted. Crumbs are kept in sealed containers. Water is measured to the drop. Even tea becomes precious, steeped with patience, sipped in silence. Mealtimes are not just for hunger, they are for grounding, for sitting across from someone and sharing warmth in a place that offers very little of it naturally. You pass packets, unwrap utensils, tell stories. Sometimes you do not speak at all. You just eat, side by side, letting the taste fill the spaces where words are not needed. Food here is more than fuel, it is culture. It is comfort. It is the soft reminder that even though the planet is different, the person remains the same. You still crave warmth. You still seek flavor. You still close your eyes after the first bite just to savor it. And maybe that is enough. In a world of strange air and unfamiliar silence, to cook something slowly and eat it with care feels like a small, quiet victory. There is a kind of stillness on Mars that makes you wonder what it would be like to share the space with something small and living, not just plants or people, but something with paws or whiskers or wings. Something that does not ask questions or calculate oxygen, but simply exists beside you, curled up in a corner or stretching along a sunlit patch of floor. For now, pets do not live on Mars. The habitat is too delicate, every breath is measured, every bit of food grown with purpose. There are no spare resources for chasing tennis balls or scratching behind ears, but still the thought remains. A dog wagging its tail softly in low gravity, trying to tie out how to sit without sliding. A cat leaping from shelf to shelf, floating in arcs that seem too graceful to belong to Earth. The thought alone brings a smile. You might not be able to bring a dog, but maybe you bring a photograph, a worn collar, a recorded purr saved on a little device. At night you play it quietly, just a few seconds. A sound that once filled a room now echoes faintly through recycled air. It reminds you of what it felt like to be watched while you worked, followed from room to room, trusted without question. Some dream of the future, of specially designed habitats with space for animals, domes with grass grown just for walking, spaces where pets can live alongside people as they always have. Not as tools, but as companions, creatures that ask nothing and offer so much. You imagine brushing fur and feeling warmth that does not come from a machine. You imagine a dog tilting its head as you explain the weather outside, a cat pressing its paw against the window watching a dust storm roll by. You imagine companionship that is simple and real, something that makes a quiet place feel less lonely. For now, robots take the place of pets in small ways. Some look like animals, some make sounds. A few can follow you around and mimic behavior that feels familiar. They are clever and sometimes funny, and they bring a sense of comfort. But there is still a difference, a softness that cannot be replicated, the gentle rhythm of a heartbeat that is not your own. Maybe one day, the ships will be bigger, the food more abundant, the systems more forgiving. And when that day comes, someone will step out onto Martian soil with a leash in hand or a small carrier nestled in their arms. A bark or a chirp or a meow will echo through the habitat, and it will feel like something very old has returned. Until then, we carry our animals in memories and stories. In the quiet way we pause beside an empty chair. In the way we still look for paw prints, even when we know they are not there. There are moments on Mars when everything feels completely still. The air does not stir, the dust stays settled, the stars do not blink. The silence wraps around you so completely that it becomes its own kind of sound. You sit quietly inside the habitat, listening to the low hum of machines and the occasional creak of your own movement. And then, without warning, something shifts. It is not loud. It does not roar or crack or send dishes tumbling from shelves. It arrives like a soft tremble, a nudge from beneath your feet, as if the planet has just remembered something. You look up, you wait, and in that pause, you realize you have just felt a Marsquake. Earthquakes rattle buildings and send people rushing for doorways. Marsquakes are different. They are shy. They unfold deep beneath the surface, in crust that has cooled and cracked over billions of years. There is no plate tectonics here, no continents drifting across oceans of rock. Marsquakes happen for quieter reasons. The crust contracts as it cools, pressure builds, and then, in a slow release, the ground gently sighs. Instruments detect what your body barely feels. Seismometers, placed carefully on the surface, listen day and night. They record the tremors, they chart the echoes. They read the planet's quiet language and send it home, where scientists lean in close and try to understand. Mars does not speak often, but when it does, its voice is old and steady. You begin to notice the way the habitat responds. A panel that creaks slightly, a cup that hums against the table for just a moment. The sound is so soft you almost wonder if you imagined it. But you know you did not. The ground moved, just a little, enough to remind you that even this silent planet is alive in its own way. You step outside later, walking across the same red dust that has held your weight for weeks or months or longer. Nothing looks different. The rocks are in the same place. The horizon stretches just as far. But under the surface, things have shifted. Not enough to break, just enough to speak. Somewhere beneath your boots, ancient faults run through stone. Not dramatic, not dangerous, but present. They mark the slow story of a world that has never stopped changing, even if those changes are too quiet for most to hear. Marsquakes do not frighten. They do not threaten. They remind that even a still world breathes, that even silence has rhythm, and that beneath the dust and wind and solitude, this planet is not frozen, it is dreaming. And as you walk back inside, brushing a bit of grit from your glove, you find yourself feeling comforted, not by the quiet, but by the subtle motion within it. Mars, it turns out, is not so still after all. There is a mountain on Mars that rises so gently, so gradually, that you could walk up it without ever realizing how far you have climbed. It is the tallest volcano in the solar system, Olympus Mons. Not jagged or sharp like the peaks on Earth, but wide and ancient, stretching across the planet like a sleeping giant. Its base would cover an entire country. Its summit reaches high above the thin clouds, where the air is even colder and the silence even deeper. You begin your walk at the edge, where the slope is so soft that your eyes cannot tell it is a slope at all. The land curves upward with patience. There are no cliffs, no scrambles, only long plains of dust and stone. Your boots press into the surface, kicking up fine powder that lifts and drifts, then falls again with no sound. The horizon always seems the same distance away, no matter how long you walk. The scale is too large for the mind to hold. As you climb, you pass old lava flows frozen in place for millions of years. They curl and fold like waves turned to stone. You see boulders that have tumbled and rested, untouched by time. You imagine the heat that once poured from the mountain's heart, the rivers of fire that shaped this gentle giant. But now, everything is cold, still, dreaming. The sky above you deepens to a darker blue, and then to black. Mars does not have enough air to scatter the light as Earth does. At this height, the stars appear even during the day. You pause and turn around. The view stretches farther than anything you have seen. Plains reach outward for hundreds of kilometers. Craters dot the land like old memories. The planet lies beneath your feet, quiet and vast. You continue walking, slowly, not to reach the top quickly, but to move in rhythm with the mountain. There is no rush here, no trail to follow. You choose each step. You stop often, not because you are tired, but because the silence invites you to. Each pause lets you notice something new. A shift in the dust, a shadow that moves with the light, the way your own breath fogs the inside of your visor before fading into clarity again. Near the summit, if you ever reach it, the ground levels out. The caldera is enormous, like a bowl carved into the sky. You imagine standing at the edge, looking down into the heart of something that once roared and now only whispers. The wind might stir faintly here, brushing against your suit like a sigh. You know that when you return, few will understand how far you walked, how slowly the climb rose, how quietly the mountain spoke. But you will remember, not the effort, not the altitude, just the feeling of walking through stillness, step by step, into a story older than anything you have known. There is a small room in the heart of the habitat. It does not hum like the lab or glow like the greenhouse. It does not carry the steam of the kitchen or the rhythm of exercise machines. It is quieter here. The light is soft and steady. The walls are lined with shelves that are not made of wood but of polymer and steel, shaped to hold something far older than the planet itself. This is the library. To build a library on Mars is to say that stories matter, even in the farthest corners of space. It begins with a few books, carefully chosen, lightweight editions. Some are technical, filled with diagrams and instructions. Others are histories, novels, poetry. Pages that carry memories, songs, questions. Words that were written long before the first ship launched. The first shelf holds Earth. The second begins to hold Mars. You might expect the library to be digital, and of course, much of it is. A tablet can hold more books than any shelf could ever bear. But there is something about a real book. Something about the sound of a page turning, the weight of it in your hands. Even here, where every gram matters, someone decided it was worth it. To carry paper across the stars. More than anything, the library is a space for stillness. You come here when the day feels heavy or when the silence outside stretches too far. You sit in the corner chair, the one with the woven cushion and the warm light above it, and you open a book. It could be anything. A guide to stargazing, a story about oceans, a collection of old Earth jokes. It does not matter what you choose. What matters is that you read, slowly, softly, with the kind of attention that only distance can teach. As time goes on, new books are added. Some are printed here, copied from files brought across space. Others are written on Mars itself, journals kept by crew members, observations, drawings. A poem about dust storms. A short story set in the greenhouse. The library becomes a place not only of memory, but of creation, a record of life as it unfolds. Children, one day, may visit this room. They will sit on the floor and trace the letters with their fingers. They will read about Earth and ask questions their parents cannot always answer. They will write their own stories, and those stories will be shelved beside the others, kept safe in a room that smells faintly of paper and plastic, and patience. To build a library here is to say that ideas are part of survival, that knowledge is not just a tool but a comfort, that stories are, a kind of shelter. In a world of dust and rock, the library becomes something soft, a quiet room filled with voices, waiting to be heard. Night falls slowly on Mars. There are no streetlights outside the habitat. No distant headlights, no glow from cities hidden beyond the hills. The sky fades in soft layers, turning from pale amber to smoky blue, and then to something deeper and darker. It is not black, not entirely. It is the color of ink left out in the cold. And into that sky, the stars appear. They do not twinkle the way they do on Earth. The air is too thin, the atmosphere too still. Instead, the stars shine with a steady light, each one clear and calm, as if drawn with a fine-tipped pen across a sheet of velvet. From your bed, tucked beneath a blanket that smells faintly of warm plastic and recycled air, you can see them through the window above. You settle into sleep with a different kind of quiet here. There are no birds outside, no wind in the trees, just the low, constant hum of machines gently keeping you alive. The sound is steady, familiar, almost like the breathing of the habitat itself. A slow inhale, a careful exhale. You match it without thinking. The bed is small but comfortable. The walls around you curve slightly, like the inside of a nest. There is a shelf near your head with a few small things. A photo, a folded letter, a stone from home. You reach for none of them. You only lie back and watch the stars from where you are. Some nights, you dream of Earth, the sound of rain on windows, the way grass feels beneath bare feet, the way a breeze can carry the scent of oceans or pine trees or cities warming in the Sunday. These memories do not feel far away. They feel close, like things you once borrowed and never returned. Other nights, your dreams are of Mars itself. You walk alone across the red plains, lighter than air, the sky curling above you in soft bands of color. You enter canyons filled with shadows and rise over hills that stretch like waves. You never run, you glide. The landscape does not end, it unfolds. And sometimes you do not dream at all, you simply rest. Wrapped in a silence so complete that it feels like floating. You are neither here nor there, neither on a planet nor inside a room. You are just resting beneath stars that shine without sound. You breathe deeply. You feel the mattress adjust beneath your weight. You feel your muscles release, one by one, like doors quietly closing. Outside, the stars keep shining. The dust keeps resting. The planet keeps turning. And inside, you drift. Held in a world that does not know you are here but allows you to stay. Sleep comes gently on Mars. It does not ask questions. It does not need dreams. It only needs stillness. And tonight, that is enough. Love is quiet here, not gone, just softer. On Earth, love is tangled in crowds and noise and movement. It grows in shared glances across busy rooms, in long walks along rivers, in chance meetings under street lamps. But on Mars, there are fewer places to hide, fewer people to meet. And so, love becomes something slower, something simpler. You might find it in the way someone hands you a fresh packet of tea without asking, in the way they always leave your favorite book on the table by the window, in how they steady your arm when you step into your suit or sit beside you in silence during the long hours when the sky turns red and the dust hangs heavy. Love here cannot rely on flowers or dinner dates. There are no restaurants, no rooftops with candles, but that does not mean it does not bloom. It blooms in different ways, in shared routines, in whispered conversations over recycled air, in the softness of knowing someone is just on the other side of the wall, humming to themselves as they fold clean jumpsuits or check pressure gauges. When you are far from Earth, love begins to mean presence. Not grand gestures, but consistent ones. A gentle rhythm between two people. A laugh passed quietly in, the middle of a long shift. A note left near the water recycler, with a doodle drawn in pencil. A hand resting on a shoulder before sleep. You might not kiss, not right away. Suits make that difficult. Gloves and helmets and layers of fabric keep you safe but distant. And so touch becomes rare, and rare things become treasured. A shared touch, when it comes, is slow and deliberate. A brush of fingers, a leaned shoulder, a glance held longer than it needs to be. Some wonder if love can survive without the world we built it in, without music drifting from cafes, without the scent of cologne or the feel of rain. But love is not made from these things. It finds its way in any space where people care, where people listen, where people remain. On Mars, love might grow in silence. It might settle between two people who plant seeds in the greenhouse each morning. It might exist between notes, played softly on a travel-worn instrument, or in the way two people gaze at the same distant point of light and know they are not alone. It will not be love as we knew it. But it will be real. It will be shaped by the red dust, the long days, and the shared breath of a world learning how to hold us. And maybe that is enough. Maybe love, wherever it finds us, becomes part of the place we are in. Even here, even now. Leaving Earth is not a single moment. It is a series of small partings, each one softer than the last. You say goodbye to your home, your street, your favorite chair by the window. You say goodbye to the sound of leaves brushing against one another in the breeze, to the smell of rain rising from warm pavement, to the curve of the moon behind thin clouds. But even as you board the ship, even as the engines begin their low, endless hum, Earth does not feel far away yet. It is only with time that the distance grows. In the first weeks, you still hear Earth in your sleep, not in dreams but in memory. You still taste it in your food, even when the meals are packaged and plain. You still feel it in your muscles, shaped by a gravity that held you since birth. Mars has not claimed you yet. You are between worlds. But then one day, you look out at the sky and realize Earth is no longer a place you could return to easily. It has become a shape, a dot, a light. It still lives inside you, but it no longer wraps itself around you. It no longer pulls at you with every step. And so you begin the slow goodbye. It comes in pieces. You stop waiting for clouds. You stop expecting birdsong. You stop pausing to listen for distant thunder. The noises of Earth begin to fade, like the ending of a song you loved, one you can still hum but not quite hear. You miss the weight of water, the randomness of weather, the closeness of oceans. You miss the way trees create shade and how sand feels between your toes. But the missing softens. It stops aching. It becomes gentle, like remembering a childhood home you no longer need to visit to know you carry it. You build new rhythms, you plant things, and wait for them to grow. You learn the texture of Martian soil. You press your gloved hand against the window and watch the red dust drift by. The longing turns into appreciation, not for what you left behind, but for what you now understand more deeply. That Earth was never owed to you. It was a gift, and so is this new place. Even here, you are not without beauty. You find it in new sunrises, in new ways of living, in the silence that has become a friend instead of a stranger. You begin to dream in colors shaped by this world, and those dreams feel just as full as the ones you left behind. The goodbye to Earth is not forever, but it is long, and it is tender. And it teaches you that home is not always a planet. Sometimes it is a memory, sometimes it is a person, sometimes it is the way you carry your past into whatever future you choose. Not everyone understands why we go. Mars is cold, it is dry, it offers no air to breathe and no warmth to welcome us. It does not ask for our presence. It does not call to us with soft winds or green forests. It waits in silence, orbiting patiently, as it always has. And still, we go. We go not to escape, but to understand. Not to conquer, but to connect. Mars holds no treasure in the way legends once promised gold or fountains of youth. What it offers instead is reflection. A chance to see ourselves from afar. A chance to learn who we are when the world beneath us does not belong to us. We go because curiosity is part of being human. Because the unknown has always whispered to us in quiet voices, asking what else is out there. Mars is not the end of that question. It is just one more place where the question feels clear. And we go because of the quiet things, because of the sound of boots pressing into new soil, because of the hush inside a small dome while dust swirls outside, because of the wonder in watching a green leaf unfurl under lights we built ourselves. These are not grand gestures, they are soft ones, and soft things, when tended with care, can last. Mars will not make life easy, but it can teach us to live with intention, to breathe with awareness, to grow with patience, to remember that every comfort must be created and every mistake must be noticed. There is no room for waste here, no room for hurry. In that way, it offers a kind of clarity that Earth does not always allow, and perhaps that is the quiet case for going. Not to change Mars, but to be changed by it, to learn what it means to live slowly, to listen to a world before we try to shape it, to be guests, not owners, to watch a sunset that turns blue instead of red and feel, for the first time, that beauty has many forms. We will bring stories, we will build libraries. We will write poems about windless days and long night skies. And one day, someone will be born here who has never walked through rain, who has never heard a bird, but who will feel just as deeply connected to life as any of us. That is why we go, because life wants to grow, even in places where it was never expected, because wonder belongs everywhere, even here, especially here. So, as you drift off, somewhere between here and that quiet red world, remember this: even on the coldest, loneliest planet, we carry warmth with us in our stories, in our hopes, in the soft echo of footsteps on new soil. Sleep well, space dreamer. May your night be filled with blue sunsets, bouncing gravity, and gentle silence beneath Martian stars.